Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Zoho Live. I'm your host, Vanati, and also Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I'm sure 2022 started with a lot of promises, a lot of hopes, and a lot of dreams, particularly the one that 2021 may have deprived you of. In my case, it started with a long list of resolution, borrowing from the previous year and the year before that. I'm sure I have company there. But what it also did begin with for a lot of us businesses is setting up of their revenue target for the year 2022. And that's why we thought the first session that we should do in 2022 should be about online or digital sales in general. Now when we are all still working from our homes, connecting remotely, without being able to connect to our customers and prospects in face. So I have Guillaume Laurent here with us, who's a CEO of Extra Mile, a company that helps you make the most out of your social media platform. They just change your social media game forever. So Guillaume has worked in a lot of enterprise companies, including LinkedIn as head of sales, director of sales, etc. So today we are going to draw in from Guillaume's experience and sales knowledge. Welcome to Zoho Live, Guillaume.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanati.
Pleasure.
Very happy and pleasure to be here.
Same here, Guillaume. Let's start with the basics, Guillaume. What are the first few steps involved in building an online or a digital platform for a company? I mean, I asked this question keeping in mind the size of the company, the vertical that they may cater to, and the different geographies that they may cater to, etc. So, how do they lay the platform to begin with?
Okay, so that's already a vast topic. So when you think about it, it's like asking this question is pretty much asking a chess player, what's the next move? But you need to know where you are. You need to know against who you play as well. So it all depends on the context. In a way, it depends on the business. It depends on the business maturity. It depends on the industry and the foremost, actually the most important to me is the customers. So who are the customers? And then so obviously we will be talking a lot about LinkedIn, but I feel as a business the first question is, who are my customers? What they're interested in? What are their challenges? Where are they? Why should I reach out to them and how I can help them? And then once you understand those, or at least you found the answers to those questions, then it makes 100% sense. Then you will have clarity on the content, on the channels, and how to approach them. And obviously depend on to answer completely your question. As a business, of course, it depends on what you sell. Let's say if you are selling product and your revenue and your growth is based on product-led growth, you need to generate that demand, and you need to actually educate your customers because they will consume and buy directly online. So actually being really present online is really key to educate them, to provoke them, to tell them you exist. If you're an enterprise business, like for example Zoho, which you sell to businesses, the decision is not just one person. It might be a committee. It might be multiple decision makers in the business. So on the customer side, you need to convince multiple people. You need the process, and the decision is slightly longer. There is obviously a risk factor that is much bigger as well, because company invest a lot more. So obviously the process and the way of engaging with customers and the strategy on LinkedIn would be slightly different as well. So I hope it's kind of, I know that there is not a secret formula, but it really depends on the customers and the buyers, and then obviously the company and what you sell.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is whether you're selling online or you're selling offline, you should know your game. Like you said, the chess example, you should know where you are exactly, what's working for you exactly, what is your buyer's profile like, and then comes which online platforms are you going to be relevant in. That makes a lot of sense, Guillaume. So, which brings me to my next question, the interesting sales cycle, which begins with lead generation and then connecting with your leads and then segmenting, nurturing, all the way up to making a prospect a customer. But I think the first two part of it, which is the lead generation and making that first connection with your customer and having being able to hear back from them, is the most challenging. I'm sure nurturing is challenging too, but we have a lot of tools in place to help us with nurturing and segmentation. And even after nurturing, if something doesn't work out, then maybe it's because your product is not good, your service is not good. We will get some sort of an insight. But when you are not able to make that leads come in, and when you're not hearing anything from the leads that you have, that's a bigger challenge. Do you have any ideas on how to do these two steps well?
So I think actually nowadays with all the information that we found on companies and people online, whether it's LinkedIn or there are plenty of online directories and business directories out there you can easily find online. Finding people to talk to and finding potential decision makers or buyers is actually a lot more easier than it used to be. So actually finding prospects is actually very easy nowadays. The biggest challenge is actually to get them to respond. And obviously, reaching out to them also, because, with emails, with WhatsApp, with all the communication tools that are out there, they've been democratized. Obviously, COVID and all the digital revolution has made it very, very easy for anyone, whether it's business, but also now individuals, to actually reach out to a huge number of potential customers or decision makers or people very easily and actually very cost effectively as well. So the biggest challenge is actually to get people to respond, because obviously on the other hand, like you and me and everybody else listening, we receive a lot more emails. We receive now WhatsApp messages as well. Like, marketing is all around us, and we are receiving, messages all the time. So we are a lot more selective in the, obviously we don't have some of us, we actually don't have the time to actually reply anyway, even if we wanted to. There are so many messages. So obviously we are selective with regards to the ones that actually grab our attention. It's not even willing to respond. It's actually, there's so much that obviously we respond to the business one, the priority ones, the people from our colleagues, the messages from our colleagues from internally from our business or clients, and everything else, we don't have to. So at the end of the day, we will only respond to the ones who actually grab our attention and become a priority for us to actually say, yeah, it sounds interesting. So actually getting the customers to, grab their attention and getting them to actually respond is the biggest challenge. And the way to get, as a salesperson or as a sales organization, to get that is to think, to be as relevant as possible and to be as authentic as possible. Meaning, like, what I'm saying is that, again, if you think about how many sales emails, unsolicited sales emails, have you responded to, and which one you would like to receive, and that the ones that you responded to are highly targeted, highly personalized, as well as highly relevant. Because personalizing an email is super easy. I can easily find your first name, your company name, and pretend I know you, I've done the research, but actually I sent it to 1,000 companies and 1,000 people. So actually making super, actually doing the extra effort of researching you, finding out your context, your position, your company. Are there any news relevant that happens to you or your company or your organization? Have you signed a new deal or signed a new logo? Or has there been a merger and acquisition in your industry? Or has there been let's say, a change in regulation that is impacting your business? So this is going to be the call to actions or the critical events that will actually prompt me and be super relevant in my approach, as well as, for example, saying that I've worked with other people that have the same challenge than you and how we can work together. So actually showing that I can make an impact by having done extra research and prepared and been super relevant to you, that will make sure that I've grabbed your attention and I'm sure that I've done the research and I can make an impact. And there is a real reason. And let's say the call to action is related to time as well, right? Because if I say I'm relevant, but there's no urgency on your side, you might park it for some time and you might never go back to it. So I think the biggest challenge to get responses from customers is really for salespeople or sales organizations or marketing to be as relevant as possible in the approach by combining those two, let's say, uh, argument, which is one, the impact, like how can I make an impact for you, and is there a critical event or a time frame by which it will hurt you? Or I know that a lot of other companies have been hurt by not doing it in time for your sales kickoff or for a trade show, or you've been hiring a lot of people, I've noticed on LinkedIn, so it's going to hurt you to onboard them and train them soon if you don't really have the right processes. So whatever you sell, try to find what are the critical events where by when your customers need to adapt or they need to change things, so then you can make an impact to them. So combining the critical event and the impact and making super pertinent, relevant, is the key to actually get responses from customers. And this is for me the sesame to success as a sales team, as a sales organization, by scaling and educating everyone in the team to actually get that right mindset and the right technique to get as many responses from customers.
Okay. And just borrowing from that thought, Guillaume, so do you find yourself telling your team not to copy paste the template over and over again, not to like send that blast email out with all the name tags and everything? Instead, sit with each and every one of your prospect, like you said, do that extra research and write a personal note for each of your customers?
Yeah, I mean, this is the way you need to stand out. So whatever the others are not doing and will get you out of the mass and the noise. So sometimes it could be a manual letter. It could be sending a gift to the prospect or your customer. It could be sending a video message where you actually record yourself, and rather than leaving a voicemail, you actually send a message through a video. So whatever makes you stand out, and sometimes it doesn't take much time. Rather than preparing a long mail shot to 1,000 customers, that takes a lot of time in terms of formatting the list and preparing the template and the also sequences and so on. And sometimes actually just getting 10 messages that are hyper personalized and relevant to customers or prospects. In an hour, you can actually reach out to 10 people, but the response rate in the probability to stand out, it will be much, much, much higher that for those 10 people, compared to actually, including them in the list and having the same message to 1,000 people.
I agree. I agree. And even if you don't get them to respond immediately to that personalized email or whatever message you're sending them, you would have at least have made an impression. That means they know you. They've registered that you exist. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, exactly. So impression is very important word. Actually, there's another one that is super important. Is reputation, right? Because at the end of the day, any business is their reputation is very important, especially in the B2B world. Because in the B2B world, usually the number of customers, your addressable market or your territory as a B2B business is quite limited. There is not a lot of ideal customers. It could be 1,000, it could be 2,000, 10,000. It could be like the ideal customers that could spend a lot of money, lifetime value for them and for you. It's actually limited. So if you actually go through, marketing list of, spending or reaching out to 1,000 accounts at a time, you will actually end up reaching out to all those accounts very quickly, but the response rate or the success rate will be so small that means that 90% of the others, they will have had a bad experience, or they will not even remember you. But the worst case scenario, that they will remember you as someone that spams them, that send them messages that they didn't care about, they didn't want to receive, and the messages are sent, and they see. You can see very quickly if the message is not personalized and not relevant. So in terms of reputation, that's very bad for businesses. But nowadays, we see a lot of businesses, for example, encouraging their sales teams or employees to be on LinkedIn and use, for example, tools like automation to actually connect at scale with as many prospects as possible. And in a way, it's as bad, because not only it hurts the business brand because the employees on LinkedIn are representing the business brand, but it's also hurting their own let's
Brand.
say, their own LinkedIn presence,
Yeah.
because if they move on in their career, or if they go to another business or another company, or they change their career totally to a different industry, LinkedIn will have been blocking them forever. So they will not be able to network anymore. They will not be able to send messages anymore. So very important to build your reputation and do things the right way.
Great, great. I mean, we are going to talk a lot about that, Guillaume. But before that, I looked at Extra Miles company website, such a sleek website you have there, I must tell you. I saw, I mean, I read this line and I thought it was wonderful. Business is social more than ever. I mean, what a
Yeah.
line. Yes, take reviews, for example. None of us make a purchase without reading the reviews anymore. And one person's experience with a particular brand or interactions with a particular brand, when put on social media, can reach tens and thousands of people. And people are going to trust what another customer is talking about your brand rather than you talking about it yourself. So, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how business is social more than ever?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, I think the first ever example has been TripAdvisor, that kind of changed the way we made decisions. For example, for traveling and going somewhere, we actually check reviews, and the score of that destination or that experience will automatically impact us or help us make the decision, more than what actually the website or the hotel is writing, right? So the reviews and what other people say is actually more trusted by customers than actually what the official channel, the official website says. So there is this component. And in sales, of course, we are dealing with people before anything else. So, when we say business to business or business to consumer, in a way, it's still people to people, because a business is represented by the salespeople, and they reach out to customers who are also people. So, if I talk to you, or the reason why we are talking today actually is been introduced by people, I would not have the same relationship with the person who introduced me to you. It would not have worked. So in a way, you really need to take care of the people you're talking to, and make sure that as a business, you are represented by the right people.
Yeah.
And so human to human interaction is super important nowadays for decision. And also LinkedIn, for example, for some years now, obviously we are going to be talking about Sales Navigator, but one of the very important and success criteria for salespeople nowadays to get the attention of potential prospect or buyers is getting introduced by other people they trust. So really finding who you know in common is even more important, than at the end of the day, even if you know you can help the customer and you are writing a beautiful message and so on, for that customer to trust you, it will take time. However, if you know someone that customer knows, that you helped him before, or you have a good relationship with, and you get introduced by that person who your customer knows, it will skyrocket and accelerate the trust building and the relationship building with that prospect or that
True.
customer. So in
Yeah.
a way, that's what I mean by business is social more than ever, is that social component is super key to any relationship building activity, and sales is very important for that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Guillaume. We're definitely already talking about LinkedIn, but let me get the first few facts of LinkedIn straight with you. What are
Sure.
the ways to, in LinkedIn, try to find out who your personalized buyers are? And as an extension of that question, how to make use of the existing LinkedIn network that we have?
Okay, so your question, the first question is really finding the buyers, so how you can find your buyers. Okay,
Right.
so I'll be a bit provocative. There are two ways. There is the basic way, and there is a more, let's say, relevant way or advanced way. So the basic way is what most salespeople do, is that they will think about themselves first, right? So they will actually put their hat as a salesperson, and they will think, as a salesperson or as a business, who am I interested in? So they will look on LinkedIn and will search for people with the right job title, the right industry, the right location. So, for example, if I'm in Dubai, and I'm actually trying to sell, to IT directors in the finance industry, I will very quickly go on LinkedIn, and it's a matter of seconds or minutes to actually very quickly find IT directors in finance that are based in the UAE or that are based in India. So
Yeah.
this is everyone that can do it, and it's a very basic approach. But on the other side, if I'm an IT director in UAE in finance and I get a message, and the message is just saying, "Hey Guillaume, I see that you are an IT director and you work in finance and you are in the UAE. Love to actually talk to you about my product and blah blah blah." I mean, why would I respond to a message like that?
Yeah.
So the advanced, again, we talked about it. You need to be relevant and so on. But so the advanced way, and we already touched on that, is forget about you, right? And then the number one is looking at your customers as a business. How do you help them and how do you impact them? And what you need to do is find more like them. So rather than looking at my sector is job title, like I'm searching for people in job title and sector and location, I'm going to look at my customers that I made successful. They are really happy with me and they got a really great ROI and great impacts. And I'm going to look for more like that. So that's the one. The number two is that I can search very quickly out of the customers that I made successful, who they know. Because again, the social proximity and the social criteria on LinkedIn allows you to find people they might know that you haven't talked to yet, and that will skyrocket the relationship, and it will make the relevancy of your approach a lot more successful, as well as the trust building is going to be much faster. And the second aspect also is the critical event. So let's just say if you detect that there is among your customers, the reason why you impact them is that they have common challenges or common pains that you are trying to solve. The main thing is actually, again, going back to LinkedIn or social media or online and trying to find people who might be having the same impact now. Therefore, you're going to approach them with a relevant message saying, I've noticed you had a pain or you have a challenge, whether it's a change in regulation, whether it's a competitor, whether it's you enter a new market, whether it's you hiring a lot or you are impacted by COVID, whatever it is. We helped other people having exactly the same pain. Let me show you how we can help you as well. And then obviously, if you add the additional social proximity and so on, that will be, that's a win-win, because you add the impact, the critical event, the big reason why you are reaching out to them now and how it hurts them now. And if you've been introduced by someone also they trust, then it's like the jackpot, because why would they ignore you if they've been introduced by someone they trust or they know, and you are reaching out to them with a reason that actually right now is one of their priorities. So this
Yeah.
is kind of the way, I would say, the advanced way of using LinkedIn, by using triggers and researching and looking for information on LinkedIn that will allow you to actually reach out to the right people with the most relevant message as possible.
Got it. And give yes, it is extremely going to be effective if you're introduced to your customer through somebody else that they are connected to someone that they would probably trust more than they trust you. But the challenge is, how do you get them to do that? How do you get this person who is connected to brand A to introduce you to them? In your real-time experience, have you witnessed any such instances that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think it depends. So this is about this leads well to what I call a networking well, like knowing how to network well. And this is all about having a healthy network, right? Which basically means it's quality and quantity. So meaning, like, a lot of people that I see on LinkedIn are just accumulating connections, but actually they just don't know the people, they don't know the person, and the person doesn't know them. So if it's just a numbers game, how would you be able to ask a favor or ask an intrusion to someone in your network if you just connected to just add up and pile people on your the connection number. So the number one criteria for me, the priority is quality. Make sure that the people you really know and you meet and you talk to on an ongoing basis, whether it's through events, meetings, even emails, you will be surprised. But if you check on a weekly basis, new people you've emailed to in the week, and you actually make the effort of connecting with them and sending a personal message on LinkedIn, it will actually ensure that whoever you work with or you communicate with in your professional life or even personal life, you connect with them on LinkedIn. At least you're connecting with people you've already met or you've talked to in real life. That's a very, very important criteria. And obviously there is adding value constantly by content, by sharing, by congratulating for a job promotion or a birthday or anniversary, or sending articles to them. So this is what I talk about, like nurturing your network of connections that you connected with, and you actually have genuine connections with, because you actually know the real people. And the quantity is just making sure that you have this consistency, that you think about it. You have intentionally a process or a routine. So to go back to whoever you met or you worked with or you communicated with, and making sure that you're not missing out on any opportunity to connect with people that you actually really met with, and so on and so forth. Of course, you can actually connect or send an invitation to connect with people you haven't met yet. It could be meeting someone in a week or 2 weeks, or it could be an influencer or eventually a mentor that you wish to approach. Then of course you can actually connect. But what I'm saying is that the main purpose of a network is to tap into your network for getting some value out of your network. And for that you need to have a healthy network, people and also adding value to them. So nurturing them, adding value, sharing things, sharing insights, posting once in a while, so that you stay top of mind and you keep adding value. So when you ask for a favor, they will know, they will remember you, and they will know you, and it will make sense for them to help you, because you help them in a way, or you've been staying top of mind to them. So this is kind of the way of building a healthy network for me, and this is the best practices. And obviously, if you've done that, when you see that you have a prospect that is connected to one of the person in your network, it will be super easy to actually ask for a favor to the person and say, hey, do you actually know well that person? I would love to talk to them for XYZ reason. Would you mind introducing me or sending an email to introduce me? And if they say yes, amazing. You've actually maybe skyrocketed or accelerated the process of actually building the trust and the relationship with that prospect.
Yeah. Thanks, Guillaume. I mean, yes, it makes sense that it is one thing to have a network and a whole other to nurture the network that you have. I think I'm also tempted to ask you to find me the next guest for Zoho Live as a connection, as a real time example. But yeah, swiftly moving on. The second part of that question was how to make use of the existing LinkedIn network that we have, in the sense that how do we segregate our connections based on many criteria, various criteria? Do we do that? And help us with that.
So the let's say you have two answers to that question. Unfortunately, you have the first one is actually on LinkedIn, on linkedin.com, whether you are using it for free or you have a premium account. It's not possible to actually group your connections, or tag your connections, or organize your connections in your network. The only way you can do that eventually as an alternative is actually by doing a search and using filters. So for example, you could filter out of your connections, you could filter only the people who are in India or in the UAE. And you can actually, the results of that search, you could actually save it as a bookmark. So then eventually you have your bookmark with the search results of anyone in your network that you're connected to who are in UAE, or they are working in with a specific job title. Or so you actually able to filter out a little bit, and then just making sure that the search on LinkedIn with the filters is narrowed to your connections. So then you can do that, but it will be through bookmarks. That's an alternative. The other way, which is Sales Navigator. So that's the kind of paid option for usually companies to equip their sales team or their salespeople with. And Sales Navigator is another level because that's a tool for businesses to organize their prospecting activities and communicate with prospects and reach out to prospects. So obviously that tool has a way of building lists and organizing, so you can search for accounts this time, you can search for companies and organize it and save the ones you want by industry, by lists, the way you want it. And the same for prospects. So you can have a list for CEOs, you can have a list for mentors in India, you could have a list for thought leaders in the retail industry, whatever you want. And anyone you find, you can save into those lists and organize your list the way you want them. So
Right.
this is kind of the option for the businesses to actually save their sales teams time.
Okay. Is there any specific advantage or disadvantage to having your segregating your network through bookmarks versus paying for Sales Navigator?
I mean, Sales Navigator is a tool for businesses, and I would, I worked at LinkedIn. I didn't sell a Sales Navigator when I was there, but I used it as a salesperson, and I obviously managed teams. So my team, I was making sure that they were using the tool and they were using it really well, because obviously you are LinkedIn, so you should be the best in the world to be using your own tool that you sell to other companies. So Sales Navigator is definitely a must-have for any enterprise business or B2B businesses who are selling to other organizations, because the main reasons why a business needs to use Sales Navigator is, one, it saves a massive amount of time to your team in finding accounts and searching for accounts and searching for prospects into accounts and organizing the information that is important for you to see at account level. So within an account, within the customer, you know, LinkedIn has organized the information in Sales Navigator, so you can see who are potential decision makers that you don't know yet, or who are the recent hires, or what are the latest news related to the account. So there is a lot of information that is structured in a way to surface the right information for salespeople to see through Sales Navigator. So that's the finding and searching and information base. But obviously they have also communication tools. So you can send emails through the platform to prospects on LinkedIn. So this is kind of the way. And like I mentioned to you, can organize your prospect list and account list the way you want. So you can save people and save companies to receive alerts. So at least being informed on a daily basis, if you want, on what's happening into accounts or prospects. The main thing that I see, the big gap between the way companies are using it and the way they should, is most of the time, salespeople are using it as search tool. Again, it's super it's really tempting when you have a tool like that gives you access to pretty much everyone on LinkedIn, which is around more than 700 million people, and you have a lot of C-level and senior people on LinkedIn. So it's super tempting as a salesperson to just do searches, find the people, and then communicate to them, like send them messages, email, or find them and reach out to them on email. But again, they miss the step, which is, getting them to respond. So doing the extra step research, being super relevant in the approach, and realizing also that not everybody's on LinkedIn waiting for a message on LinkedIn. So C-level and senior people, they are super busy. They might be on LinkedIn, but they not be active. So you need to reach out and have your channels in place to actually being able to do a multi-touch approach. So if you really want to get a C-level to respond to you in your approach or in your sequence, you find them on LinkedIn, but you need to have your message super relevant. But you need to realize that you need to try to call them, you need to send them an email, you need to send them follow-ups. To stand out, you need to be persistent and relevant, and you need to send a voicemail, messages, WhatsApp, call. So the more you have those touch points, the more likely that person will say, okay, I need to respond to that guy because he's not going to let me go. And if your message is relevant, at least they will say, okay, it seems interesting, and that guy is really, motivated to reach out to me, because even if I'm not on LinkedIn, I would have heard of you because you will have left me your voicemails. So this is kind of the approach that I see most people are using LinkedIn for search, and then just kind of let's say leisurely using emails, and then that's it. They wait instead of actually using LinkedIn as an insight tool. Because finding people, like I said, is super easy, but actually waiting for the right moment, to wait for the right trigger based on the account or based on person. For example, it would be a lot more relevant to reach out to new hires of that company who are in senior positions, because those people who just been recently hired, if they are really high level, they will be more likely to make changes in the organization. Or if you find from a news alert that the company is letting go people, or that they are fast growing and they are hiring a lot, or they just posted a job related to an IT, let's say, skill or an IT role where you can help. So using those triggers to contact the right people at the right time is a lot more relevant than just finding people, and mass messaging. And this is the kind of big shift between what I've seen, customers of LinkedIn and companies using LinkedIn Recruiter, and what the best practices, the best class salespeople are using LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Got it. Got it. Thank
So
you.
just
And
wanted to share.
yeah, definitely. And now that we're talking about Sales Navigator and other lot of good practices for LinkedIn, I also want you to talk to us about LinkedIn Pulse, because I know that I mean, we discussed about pushing out the content that will help your buyers, the content that will make you stay relevant with your network, the content that your network can relate to. So obviously, we all tend to post content through the update tab, but there is also LinkedIn Pulse, and I think broadly it notifies your connection of the content that you have posted, as opposed to if when you post it as an update, it comes up on your feed. But as somebody who is a pro in terms of using LinkedIn's network, how do you see this? What is the difference between just posting an update or using LinkedIn Pulse?
Okay, um, so they've been researched on LinkedIn, and especially the LinkedIn algorithm, to understand the performance of posting and different variations of doing things on LinkedIn related to content. So the research is out there, and there are a lot of findings related to the LinkedIn algorithm, because again, it's like trying to play football and not doing knowing the rules, or playing cricket and not knowing the rules. How likely are you going to be to succeed and win the match if you don't know the rules? So one of the first things is like, know the LinkedIn algorithm, do your research, and try to understand how the LinkedIn algorithm works. Now, to answer your question on LinkedIn Pulse in a nutshell is pretty much publishing long form articles on LinkedIn, right? So initially it was for celebrities. LinkedIn opened it up to celebrities and thought leaders at first. So like you had presidents or business owners or really kind of VIP celebrities. And then they opened it up to everyone. So everyone could actually start writing long articles on LinkedIn. And that's the difference between the long articles and the post, which we've been actually able to post on LinkedIn since very, very early. So that's the big thing. Now, in terms of impact, if you are a brand, or if you are a person and you want to gain visibility and build your brand as a personal brand or as a business brand, the biggest thing is around, I think, posts. And then, because the posts are obviously a shorter lifespan, but the visibility that you will get from a post is much higher. So obviously the frequency of posting needs to be higher. As a business or as a person, ideally once a day, or as a business you could post once a week. But what I'm saying is that the post will get a lot more visibility than publishing an article. And in a way, publishing an article on LinkedIn will take a long time as well, right? Because it's a long content, and the visibility that the LinkedIn algorithm gives to the long form article is going to be less than the visibility that it gives to LinkedIn posts. So obviously it's good to have both, because they serve different purposes. posts are more visibility, they will get a lot more engagement, and but the lifetime is is much shorter. Articles, you can actually feature them on your profile, or articles can be also now since recently you can feature them on your company page if you are a company. So, and those are vehicles for gaining trust to share thought leadership because they are long form, so you can put a lot more content. And this is something that you can really capitalize on for a longer time because you can actually feature them on your personal profile or your company page. So that's the two differentiators between the LinkedIn posts, or the publishing platform on LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn posts.
Got it. Thank you. And you touched upon it vaguely earlier about a brand having its LinkedIn profile versus a brand's representative's LinkedIn profile. I mean, let's admit that all of us have a LinkedIn profile. It's one of the easiest social tools at our disposal, and we all connect at a professional level and have all sorts of discussion. And we use this platform to also be discovered by many people for various reasons. But then, what are the strict do's and don'ts, or what are the clear distinctions between how a brand's profile should be versus how a brand's representative's profile should be, which could be a salesperson, marketing person, etc.?
Okay, so the number one activity on LinkedIn is for LinkedIn members, to look at each other, right? So viewing profile is the number one activity. So knowing that, as a business, you want to brand your employees, right? Because obviously employees, you pay them salary. Obviously, your profile is your property. As an individual, you own your profile. You do whatever you want with your profile. But as a brand, as a company, I would say, if you try to get your employees to be proud of working for you, you have the right culture, you want actually to make sure that they also play a role, and they see themselves belonging, having a common goal, and being team players, by actually making sure that they also contribute to elevating the visibility of the company they work for on LinkedIn, whether it's for hiring. If I'm a developer, even if I'm not a salesperson, but I'm a developer, I'd rather have the world-class developers around me in my team. It will help me build better products. It will help me, and my organization, be bigger or better, have a bigger reputation, and hire more talent. And it will be better for my career as well, because I can actually say I work for Google instead of working for a company that no one knows. So what I'm saying is that whatever your department, it helps helping your company be more visible, attracting the best on LinkedIn, or educating potential buyers who are coming across your profile, especially if you're in sales or if you're in leadership roles. So branding and educating employees on, first of all, how to brand or how to optimize their profile is number one. Number two, if you are a business and you have a company page, obviously you need to structure your company page and have a proper structure, especially if you are a big company, between the parent page and the affiliated page and so on, right?
Yeah.
But if you have that right and you branded your page, the key area is around activity and content. So again, if you branded your employees, or you have a beautiful page on LinkedIn as a company, but there is no content, you're not going to drag visibility towards the page, and you're not going to build credibility over time. And the same for people. If you have leaders who are not active on LinkedIn, it's a shame for hiring, for actually influencing potential talent, or making it, sharing more about your culture, or making it more visible that you are a leader worth working for. So whether it's you are a leader, whether you're a salesperson or marketing or recruiter, for example, that would be essential for you to be more active. And content is very key towards gaining visibility and getting traction and generating more views to not only your profiles and your brand, but also show credibility and show thought leadership by posting and getting engagement on your post. And one thing that I wanted to share with you is that if you are a business and you have a company page, and you have, let's say 100,000 followers, only 3%, when you post, only 3% of that are viewing your content. So the likelihood of people to view your content is very small as a company. However, if you get your employees
Mm.
to actually engage with your content, your content as a company will be seen 8 times more.
Yes.
So it's critical. Like I told you about employees, and the number one activity on LinkedIn is in being profile views. As a
Mm.
business, you need to leverage your employees for branding, but also for educating, so they know what are the best practices for sharing your content, for engaging with your content, to promote your content, and as well as sharing their own experiences and so on in the best way possible with the best practices that are aligned with the LinkedIn algorithm. So
Mm.
even if they have a higher activity level, at least they know what are the best practices. So the efficiency and the performance of whatever they do on LinkedIn is actually is actually greater.
Mm.
If you have people who are super motivated and they are active, but they are not leveraging the right, they don't know how to, and it ends up restricting the performance of the visibility of your post. It's a shame, because you have people really enthusiastic, very motivated and active, but they are doing the wrong things on LinkedIn. So at the end of the day, you're limiting your visibility and your reach.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
educating people, so at least they know how to do it, and at least the ones who are motivated and enthusiastic, at least they will know how to do it, and you will actually gain as a business, and people also, they will actually gain when it comes to their visibility and their personal brand as well.
Yeah, thank you. And Guillaume, we did talk about lead generation through LinkedIn in particular. You spoke about Sales Navigator, how you can put in relevant filters and look for all the buyers profile that would be relevant to you. And when doing so, I think there is this also calls for the need to have specific tools at your disposal. Definitely CRM for sure. But also, as a sales leader, you would know that there might be few more tools other than just a CRM, which you should have at your disposal to manage your leads across social platforms. I mean, we discussed extensively about LinkedIn, but more than that, we will be getting leads from a lot of other social media platforms where we are active too. So, do you have any advice on how to manage these tools better? Because the way you say it, Sales Navigator itself has a pretty good view. You can reach out people through their in-mail system, etc. But how do you would you rather recommend that they connect leads from Sales Navigator to their CRM, and or would you advise that they do it just specifically on Sales Navigator alone? What would be your advice?
Okay, so for me, Sales Navigator is a great tool, but obviously alone it's not really efficient for a business or for organization to just rely on Sales Navigator, right? Because the CRM is basically very important as well as a business. I'll say, in terms of this, any organization, especially sales organization, they need to have a sales stack. The reason for that is that they need to be as efficient as possible, and they need to be able to measure things
Yeah.
all the way through. So from the very beginning of the relationship with the customer, or touch points, whether it's through campaigns or through landing pages, through first interactions or prospecting interactions and emails, as well as demos, as well as back and forth communication channels, whether it's on WhatsApp, or having email sequence tool. Um, and obviously there is a presentation, a proposal. So like having some efficient way of sharing proposals, so you can actually see when customers are looking in and which pages, or how long they spend, or if they share it internally. So
Yeah.
all those tools throughout the whole way, the throughout the whole journey, the customer journey and the buying journey,
Mm.
the more efficient you are, the better, because then you can actually measure what's working, what's not, and improve it. And obviously there is the signing as well. For example, electronic signature actually makes it super more efficient to actually get contract in. So whether it's actually from the prospecting to the closing stage, but as well as the ramping up and the launching and the onboarding with the customer, for example, for SaaS business, you need to also measure the customer success journey and all of that, right? So it's very important to make sure that you're choosing the right sales stack. Sales Navigator is a big part of that, of course. The CRM, talking about the CRM quickly, I think the two biggest points of frictions on the CRM are the input and the output. And in a way, it's actually human interactions here. The input is where whatever goes in the CRM is basically entered usually by the salespeople.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
nowadays you have a lot of tools that allows you to, from conversation, take the conversation scripts or transcript the audio or the video from the Zoom conversation and so on,
Yeah.
and transcript that directly into notes into a CRM, for example. So the input is very important, and making sure that your sales reps are educated around the importance of actually maintaining the information up to date and fresh. And then there's the output, which is reporting, for example, learning from the information and data and knowing how to get the reports, the insights that you need to be able to improve, and go back to your team and coach them on opportunities or gaps. So this is kind of the two, for me, the two frictions. And actually that is where humans are usually, like the entry level, like the input, and obviously the output, which is the reporting and the visualization of the data. And if sometimes managers are not aware of that, it's useless to have all this data sitting in a CRM and actually not really used well.
Yeah.
So that's us to talk about the sales stack and the importance of a CRM in the sales organization.
Right, right. And do you want to give us a perspective on the other social media platforms as well, Guillaume? I think I'm particularly coming to Twitter because Twitter has really emerged as a platform where you can make meaningful connections with people. It's a little bit more personal than LinkedIn, also, let me say. I mean, if I may say so, because LinkedIn could sound a little bit more professional, whereas in Twitter you can connect to the people in your network at a little bit more of a personal level. So, how do you put all of these different social media platforms into perspective? Take even Facebook for that matter.
Sure. Okay, so that's a great question. One of the things is that as a sales organization, as a salesperson, for example, if you are looking at digital sales, which is actually, we didn't mention, but with COVID and with the trend towards digital, most buyers now are making decisions online. So it's really important for salespeople to be online, right? So obviously social is super important because you have a lot more content, a lot more insights from relationship with people online or on social. And this is also where you can get pretty much daily information on accounts for free. If you are following accounts on Twitter, or if you are following people or decision makers into accounts on LinkedIn and so on. So the difference between LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so on is that, let's say, a C-level person or a marketing person, for example, you might be on Twitter, you might be on LinkedIn, you might be on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as a salesperson, if I wanted to approach you, I would learn a lot more different things on those different channels about you.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I may learn about music, interests, leisure and things like that, travel. On Twitter, I will learn about what you engage with, what you liked, content you follow,
What am
list
I
you
feeling
follow,
grumpy about? What am I very
you
angry
know.
about?
Yeah, exactly. Also, and then LinkedIn, I will know about your career, your experience, who you know in your network, who we know in common. So I can learn a lot about you through different channels. The only thing is that then there is the communication, the way of engaging, right? So if I wanted to engage with you, and it's a professional context, meaning I want to sell something to you, or I think I can help you professionally, I would rather use LinkedIn, because if you are on LinkedIn, you are on LinkedIn for a reason. And this is a professional context, it's a professional ecosystem. If I'm reaching out to you on Facebook, and when you are on Facebook, you are at home, you're having fun, you are kind of watching TV, and then you are not obviously at the office, and you get a message on Facebook related to work, it's, first of all, it doesn't match with regards to your mindset, and you're not in the right context, and you might not be in the office where you can deal with it already straight away. So the context and the mindset of where the buyers or where the person you want to engage with is very important on how you engage and which channel you choose. So this is kind of the main differences, in the sales context, because you can learn a lot from all the different channels, and you can find people across all those channels for sure. But actually finding out the right channels and reaching out with the right mindset, the right context is critical. And if I, Twitter might make sense for another reason. So it all depends. But I'll say if you are trying to contact a senior person, obviously try email, but relate to something to LinkedIn, something they've shared on LinkedIn, something happening to them or to their organization on LinkedIn. Don't really use personal things they might share on Facebook or Twitter in your approach on email, because it's a little bit kind of too much if you actually relate to something personal related to a professional kind of engagement.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Thanks. And we're coming to the end of the session, Guillaume. And my last question to you is going to be, you shared a lot of things with us today that can help a sales agent, starting from, the applications contact, the CRM context sticks with me, where you have to train your employees on how to do the input of leads, to versus how to calculate the ROI of all your efforts. All of these things had to be taught to the salesperson, and then you have to teach them about how to maintain your social media profile, be it on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are, and also do a lot of encouraging them to maybe even interact with the brand's profile, or elevate their position as a sales agent, representing the brand in whatever way they will have to. So in your experience, what goes on into training a sales team, particularly when you're dealing with them about online training or social media selling?
Okay. So let me actually step back a little bit. One of the biggest ask, I mean, we are the beginning of the year now, and most of sales organizations, or sales team, or sales leaders have new quota, have new goals, new objectives, and usually they are higher than last year, right? So we are usually not actually asking our sales leaders, to achieve less this year.
Yeah.
So the big challenge is actually to do more. And sometimes they will have more resources, sometimes they will have the same resources. So the biggest thing is that the first reaction that most people have is that if I want to achieve more, I need more. So I need more leads, I need more people. And I think one of the things that is super key, if you actually measure throughout your whole sales process, your conversion rates, like for example, how many marketing leads, or my marketing qualified leads, my sales qualified leads, my closing ratio, my demo to proposal ratio, and all of that, the timing in between stages and so on. Once you measure all of that, you will probably know what are the gaps where you can, by making a small percentage increase, you could actually increase the output, increase the revenue from the sales team, from the same amount of leads that you received last year, right? So this is the biggest, let's say, the biggest impact that most salespeople or most sales leaders can have, and obviously training can have, is making sure that if you have the same resources, or the marketing team, you cannot ask the marketing team to double the number of leads every year. Again, because in a B2B market, maybe your territory is limited. So you need to do better. And how to do better is through training, identifying the processes and measuring everything, and understanding where the gaps, or the spaces for opportunities, and training and coaching the team on improving on those spaces. So at least you can actually get a bigger output in at the end of the year. So this is where the training is, and this is where it all comes down to making sure that you get your team on board. They get the big picture at the end of the year. They understand, they are on board, and they're on the same page than sales leaders and organization when it comes to why we are doing it, what's the purpose, what are we trying to achieve as an organization, and then cascading it down to as a team and as an individual, and what are the day-to-day activity that I need to do, and what's the cadence, and what are the key metrics that I need to get, whether it comes to calls or emails or prospects. And so at the end of the day, just getting those metrics in and identifying the spaces for improvement is going to be making a much bigger impact than just asking the marketing to generate twice as many leads.
Great, great. Absolutely agree. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure in marketing, as a marketer, you probably appreciate that.
definitely, because you have to give your sales team the bigger picture. That kind of increases their morale as well. And this in itself will help them share a lot of thoughts, because then they will know why they are selling what they are selling, instead of just being brash about shoving their product down on the prospects and trying to just close leads, which is obviously also not going to work. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Guillaume. It's great talking to you. This is such a good session. Thanks so much for coming, and thanks for your time.
Thank you to you, and thank you to Zoho as well for organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode with another interesting topic. Bye bye.
Bye.